I'm joined now in the studio by the Israeli diplomat and spokesperson, Orly Goldschmidt, and the former head of the British Army, Lord Dannatt. Well, welcome to both of you. Orly, let me start with you. Your reaction to my interview with the Palestinian ambassador?
You know, after the horrors that have been committed by Hamas against Israelis on the 7th of October, it's very disturbing to see his reaction. It is so difficult for him to condemn Hamas actions. And I have to say, as someone who cares for the Palestinian people, he should be fighting against Hamas, which are holding the Palestinian people hostages, and they are making them suffer, both the Palestinians and both Israelis.
The big question, and I've been having this all week with multiple voices on all sides of this debate, but the big question, I don't dispute for a moment, I read a column about this yesterday.
I read it.
That Israel has an absolute right to defend itself after what happened. This was an appalling terror attack, the worst attack on Jewish people since the Holocaust, the worst terror attack, you could say, since 9/11. So they have a right to defend themselves, and clearly, if the enemy is Hamas, and Hamas is predominantly in northern Gaza, living amongst civilians, the only way to get Hamas is to go in there in some way, whether it be through air or ground or whatever it may be. And I'll come to the general to talk about what the consequences of that may be. But the key question is proportion. What is proportionate? I don't even know how you find proportion when you're talking about the scale of what happened on October the 7th. But Israel will know that the world is watching. And if they get this calculation wrong and they act in a way the world views as disproportionate, then this could spark a situation 10 times worse than it is already. What do you say to that?
Piers, you said it yourself. What is proportionate to beheading of people, to the murder of 1,400 people, to the torture of so many people, to the firing alive those innocent babies, women, elderly people? It's a question. What is proportionate to that? I have to say, you know, I think, thank God, we're not going to be proportionate like the Hamas was with us, because we are not like Hamas. We care about human lives. We do not target civilians. We target Hamas facilities, Hamas infrastructures, Hamas leadership, and we don't want to be proportionate.
Can you say unequivocally that it was not an Israeli airstrike that hit the hospital last night?
You've seen the evidence provided by the IDF. I can say equivocally that it was not an Israeli airstrike. There are proofs, you know, that the size of the crater, the fact that there was no IDF activity at that time in that place, and the firing, the footage that we saw from Al Jazeera itself, plus the conversation that we picked up from people from Hamas saying it was us. It was said in Arabic. It was us. It was Islamic Jihad who fired that. And you know, maybe people don't know, but out of the hundred thousands of rockets fired from the Gaza Strip towards Israel, at least 30% are misfired, and they fall within the Gaza Strip.
I mean, I'm going to be, waiting for more official confirmation of this. But Lord Dannatt, I mean, the impending sense there's going to be a massive ground, maybe air, ground, sea invasion of Gaza. From a military perspective, I saw David Petraeus, who was obviously commanded the Allied forces in Iraq, talking about how this brings back the memories of what happened in Iraq and how incredibly difficult it is to fight an urban war like that.
And David Petraeus is absolutely right, and it is very difficult to fight an urban war like that. Back to the issue of proportionality. The IDF can be proportionate, provided its operations are to the maximum degree possible intelligence-led. If they think they're going to be able to find lots of Hamas fighters amongst the residual civilian population, I think they'll be disappointed, because actually anyone with half a wit would blend into the civilian population. What they absolutely must do, and undoubtedly will do, knowing that there's a great network of tunnels where lots of munitions and all the rest of it are stored, is find them, destroy them. And if they can find any control centres, we'll destroy them as well. And if along the way they're able to round up any Hamas fighters and leaders, so much the better.
But a lot of civilians are going to die, aren't they?
Well,
at what point, as I asked Orly, at what point does proportionate become disproportionate?
It becomes disproportionate if, to the watching world, the actions of the IDF are not as careful and measured as they can possibly be. of course, in any situation, you're going to use violence, you're going to use force, and there will be, that awful term, some degree of collateral damage. But so long as that's kept to the minimum, and it really does come back to this issue of the hospital being struck yesterday. It's a hospital that's run by the Church of England. It's run by the Diocese of Jerusalem. It was struck on Saturday last week, and the Diocese of Jerusalem got in touch with the Israeli government and said, that's our hospital. I'm absolutely certain that any clear-thinking military planner on the IDF side would not then strike at a hospital again. And of course, the other side, this gets back to exactly the issue of proportionality. Of course they'd want to strike that. Of course they'd want to kill as many people as they can, because it's so easy to blame it on the IDF, and the whole world's narrative changes. And that's what's got to be changed back the other way.